today. This is a great announcement for the city, and I'm delighted to be a part of it. I want to thank all of you for being here, especially the media, so we can get the word out about this great project. And I'm joined today by a longtime, very fine community citizen, Mr. Tam Allen. In the last few years, as you all have known, construction cranes have been a familiar sight in downtown Lincoln, and today we are here to announce a major development. This one for the space on the north side of the Q Place parking garage. Think of that as directly south of the Lead Center. And it's being developed by Tam and his partners. So thank you, first of all, for engaging in this major piece of work. This was the location of the former Applebee's, as many of you will remember, but this site was originally envisioned, hopefully, to be much more than a restaurant on the first floor. The city was hoping to see a mixed-use building lining the entire north face of the garage between 11th and 12th Street. Tam's proposal meets that vision in every way with a brilliant 20-story retail office and residential project, and it's going to be called, I think, Lead Place Residences. Okay. $30 million project, $30 million plus, would include a restaurant on the ground floor, about 4,500 square feet of office space on the second and third and fourth floors, and 40 condominium units on the upper 16 floors. So, as you can imagine, going up that high, what the view of the city and the university is from those windows. It's very exciting to see the historic transformation of the downtown continue with yet another landmark building that will again change our skyline dramatically. This key location across the street from the Lead Center has been vacant for 5 years, and we were hopeful that someone would come forward with the right project for the challenging site. And Tam has been working on this, and this is the project, a major redevelopment that will add to the beauty and to the vibrancy and to the efficiency of our downtown. The project also meets a goal of the 2005 Downtown Lincoln Master Plan by helping to bridge that gap between traditional downtown and the UNL campus, and of course it's dramatically improving that whole little area there right by the Lead Center. That's going to be one of the beauty spots of the downtown. In some ways, it also serves as a bridge between that downtown master plan and the new one, which you all will become familiar with next week. The project includes about $5 million in tax increment financing. It will first be reviewed by the City Urban Design Committee and the Lincoln-Lancaster County Planning Commission in November. We're going to move right along. The City Council is expected to consider the project, hold a public hearing in January. Shortly thereafter, the redevelopment agreement will be formulated and submitted to the City Council, and the project could start next spring, and we hope to cut the ribbon on a beautiful new Lead Place redevelopment in early 2021. Can you do it?
Absolutely.
So congratulations, Tam, on all your work on this and on the proposal as it has finally emerged. And I want you to know I have insisted that Tam talk about his family a little bit, talk about his daughters, talk about, I hope he'll talk about his father a little bit too. And so if he's getting personal, it's because I pushed him to do so, because I think it's a great community story.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm Tam Allen, and I'll be the developer on this site with some very good partners, key partners. the mayor said, well, of course you're going to introduce your wife and daughter. And my response is, I'm not a fool. So I'd like to introduce my wife, Kathleen, and my daughter, Kristen, a very important part of my team. And one of my partners here, and another important part is Joey Hausman, Hausman Construction. He's a partner, and also his firm is going to build the building there. And so, have we got our final numbers yet, Joey?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. I appreciate your remarks, and you talked about going back to the 2005 plan is in thanks to the efforts of city planner Dallas McGee. I see him out there. Actually, I brought just a brief copy. There was a request by the city, request for proposals for Q Place retail and housing development with a stated intention as a major goal of the redevelopment to expand downtown commercial retail office and the supply of housing stock within the development area. This reinforces downtown revitalization strategy. The city expects this project to be a significant attraction by providing commercial space along Q Street and housing opportunities downtown. This was almost 25 years ago that this RFP came out, 1994, and it was under then Mayor Mike Johans, and it's taken this long as far as, and with the help of this administration and Mayor Beutler and his development team, to make this happen. I happen to have an opportunity to recently talk with Mike Johans, and my question is, what were you thinking as far as with the parking garage having the small amount out where the Applebee's restaurant is on that? And he said, well, it started with stakeholders of the lead center saying, we don't want an ugly looking parking garage space facing us across the street from the development. And if you drive by there and see that, it is the only unadorned, non-finished side of a parking garage in Lincoln, the way that it is. And as you go up the steps, when you go to the next lead concert that you, or whatever sporting event, there's actually punch outs on the individual floors for a building that wasn't built until this time. And so this is, it's taken a long time. It's a very important site. I was talking with the mayor. We looked at this. We talked to Mayor Beutler and Dave Landis. Gosh, I think it was 2014 when we originally secured the property, and it's taken this long. And so, I always do what the mayor tells me to do, is talking about my background. I'm an attorney. Gosh, how many years? Lived in Lincoln, came down to the university, stayed for law school, never left, and been involved in commercial development, mostly retail, but also the State Bar Association, the State Data Processing Center, and other projects, some office buildings and other things on that. So this is one that we have stared at a long, long time, is to see, because it's too important of a piece of property. The other question I asked Mike Johans is, how come you didn't give me more room to build a building on that site? Because it's a narrow site, and we have responded in a couple of different ways. Instead of, and I don't want to demean other construction methods, instead of a light steel structure that is just by the design is limited to 5 floors or so that you see. This is a type of construction, a post-tension concrete construction, that just quite frankly is not used anymore. And by necessity, it's a difficult site to build on. That's with the help with Joey's company, Hausman, we've figured out a way to do that. And also, it's a very tall building. Our architects that helped us on this is a lead group is from Atlanta, the Smallwood, Reynolds, Stewart & Stewart firm. And I looked at it, as far as the height, and you can see that's a high building for Lincoln. And I said, we have wind up here. And they gently laughed and said, we do 80-story buildings, and we have high buildings and high winds in Atlanta also. So as we speak, the building design is undergoing wind tunnel. I've never had a building that's had wind tunnel studies done on it. And so, and again, it's a type of construction. It's a very expensive type of a construction, but it's going to lead to a very substantial building that'll be here a very, very long time. The thing I wanted, I told the mayor that I'm going to say is that when I originally visited with you and Dave Landis, I said I would not darken your doorstep until we had everything in place. And this summer, I gave Dave a call, and we have gone through a very extensive process. It's not always been an easy process. As important as we value this project and this property, the city department, the urban design values it even more, and we're also very, very pleased because it appears like this is going to be a part of a more enlarged Q Street project that will, I don't know, would rival or equal as far as some of the good work that's been done on P Street. And so we're extremely pleased as to be able to do this, and I would be happy to answer any questions that anybody might have, or Mayor, that you would have.
Yeah, I have no questions. I'm delighted it's going through the wind tunnel process, but don't tell me there's light at the end of the tunnel. I'm too old for that expression.
No, I mean, we're being extremely careful about all aspects of this property. It is adjoining, as you can see, the parking garage. There's going to be through the doorways that are already in the stairwells on that. They'll have direct access from the stairwells, elevator shafts on at least one side of the existing parking garage. But like I said, I cannot give enough credit as far as to the process that we have gone through with the city staff on this. And like I said, it hasn't always been easy, but I think it's a good product has come out for both of us.
Great. Joy, I don't know if you wanted to say anything. You're certainly welcome to.
We're just happy to be a part of the project like this and part of the team, and it's definitely going to transform the skyline of Lincoln. And we have a group of individuals that are excited to get started.
Great. Thank you. Questions? Yeah?
Yeah, Mayor, for you, can you explain a little bit more about wanting to bridge that gap between downtown and the university campus?
Yeah, you know, there are many aspects to that, a psychological, a physical, but we don't want the city thought of as two separate kinds of entities, but a blending of the entities and a merging of the downtown with the university in as many ways as possible, whether that's through promotion of the performing arts that are coming out of the university, whether it's housing in the downtown area. We want all kinds of housing in the downtown area. There's student housing down there. We're trying to reinforce the downtown area with increased housing at all other levels of income so that there's a varied community living in and supporting the downtown and in the close proximity to the university, and some of those people living down there are students too, of course. So it's all a part of the effort to build up the downtown and the university.
Can you explain a little bit the process of how you found the architecture firm to design this building? Maybe like how many firms the city went through and what made these guys in Atlanta stand out?
Yeah, you know, you're giving us way too much credit on the public side. So much of this that happens in these partnerships is on the private side. And in this case, the property was owned by private interest. And so the initiative for the development was, in its legal dimensions, was all TAM and the people working with TAM, and they chose the architect, and you may want to talk about that.
Sure. The property's been privately owned since 1999 when the Applebee's restaurant came in there, and That lasted until, gosh, around 2014, is that ownership, when the Applebee's interests were sold in Lincoln, and that was one that, quite frankly, became available, and we secured it at that time. As far as in architects on that is, through my experience, through Joey's experience, we work with a number of different architects, and it was real important, and I don't think I've mentioned it enough, is we have Sinclair Hilly as our architects that I'm going to lean on a whole bunch as far as the design here. I did want to be careful about, it's a tall building, and I'm not saying by any stretch of the imagination that Lincoln architectural firms could not accomplish that. It was another partner, Doug Rath, the chairman of Talent Plus, that had worked with that architectural firm in Atlanta, and we liked the design, and so we that's how we ended up choosing that on that. So.
Can you
Yeah.
possibly explain a little bit the $5 million tax financing?
Yeah, you know, with respect to certain areas of the city, historically in America, our downtowns have been allowed to run down, and redevelopment of older areas of the cities of America were dramatically determined to be in need of public-private partnerships in order to redevelop land that's more expensive to redevelop than land out on the edge of the city that may be just a cornfield. In other words, old infrastructure has to be dug up, buildings have to be demolished, there are additional costs that are significant in developing older areas of town. So a taxing redevelopment process that involves what we call tax increment financing, which is a public contribution to the development of a project, was developed over time, and we've used that here in Lincoln to help people redevelop places that are hard to redevelop. And tax increment financing can be as much as 10 to 15% of the cost of development, depending on the negotiations between the private sector and the public sector. So there is a public contribution, but there's a public purpose, which is to redevelop the older parts of our town.
I'd like to speak to that
Sure.
also. On the 1994 request for proposals, and that was when the city owned the property and they were doing it in development of conjunction with the parking garage. Dallas, you're going to have to verify this for me. Nobody bid. On the 1994, there were no takers because it's an extremely difficult site. That goes back to my conversation with Mike Johanns. Why don't you leave a little bit more land in there so that it could be effectively developed? In 1999 was the second RFP. There were only two people that, or two groups that were interested in going to the site. And like I said, it was set up for a multi-story building. And the successful person that the city deemed at that time was a one-story restaurant. And it wasn't because they paid a whole bunch of money or that was a better idea on that. It was in some ways, I don't want to say impossible to build on. It was impossible to build on the project is using conventional construction. It would be difficult for even a steel frame construction to be on that site. And so not only did we want to have the highest quality of construction for this site, there was no other way as to develop the site to that way. And quite frankly, there's a reason why there's been a short building over there because, but for the assistance of the city in doing that, it simply would not happen. So And the city was real tough on that, right, Dave?
Is this 30, possible 30 million including the 5 million in TIF or 30 plus the 5 million?
That would be including that in there. And is it, can I say, and also part of the TIF money, there's substantial improvements that'll happen on Q Street that will be a model for not only this block, but for blocks to the east and the west. As much as you've seen, what do you want to call it, the design standard, the branding of P Street, there will be a new, we're developing together, not only on this block, but all the way along on Q Street, because it's important. It's extremely important. It's in the connection with the university. So we're pleased to be part of that. And a good amount of the funds of the TIF financing is going to go for the community improvements to the streets.
Either one of you, when was the last time the city took on a project of this scale?
The last time we took on a project of this scale,
Something so significant?
oh, I think I mean, there are a number that are near this scale, 2 or 3 in the West Haymarket area. The building at the corner of P Street and between 9th and 10th, City Center, is of a similar nature. And then there was the project on O Street that is not going forward, was on this scale. But there are a handful of them that are at this level.
Mayor, the most recent example of that was the question, is the Olson 2 project in the West Haymarket. This is about the same size, not the same height, but about the same size of project in terms of cost. And that's the most recent.
Well, yeah, the whole rail yard area down there. And that's another point on this building. Lincoln is being blessed with a number of different downtown areas for different functions. Is it called the festival area or the area, but near the Pinnacle Bank Arena, there's housing down there. There is actually a very limited amount of condominium housing that people can purchase. But this is, I suppose, this would be more on, the beautiful job that the University Towers, when they renovated the Stewart Building, extremely well-built sound structure on this. I guess this is going to be quieter, too, than some of the areas on that. So, and the other thing I wanted to mention is that we've been very careful as far as, again, not wanting to come to this without having all of our ducks in a row. Approximately 30 to 40% of the units are already committed at this time before this announcement, and so we're very heartened by that type of response.
Excellent.
So I could call this a high-class vertical slip-in.
Something about that sort of twangs. I don't know. It's just kind of racy or something like that. A high-class vertical slip-in. So,
The scale strikes me
distinctive,
as something
yeah.
more than a slip-in.
Yeah, it isn't a slip-in. I can't let you do that. It's completion of the face, of that street. And as you can see, we took great pains. These existing stair towers are there. Obviously, the museum, the university property is there. This completes that face. And what I wanted, and I challenged the architects, is what I want when this is completed is that, that's always been there. City was just kind enough 20 years ago to build a parking garage around it. So, but that was the intention of the city at that time.
All right, you good to go?
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. All right.